So it would kind of go like this and then like this. That was terrible drawing on my part. So some fats are like because they have, did that make sense?
That was good. Dr. Sarah, can we get super nerdy about fats?
Yes.
Can you explain what is the difference in between monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, and saturated fats?
I can with my whiteboard. All right, so fatty acids all have a like really similar chemical structure. So they are like an entire chain of carbons, and at one end, that carbon has a double bond to one oxygen and a single bond to an oxygen and a hydrogen. The rest of these carbons have hydrogens attached. So this is sometimes called the hydrocarbon chain. And this is where we get the difference between a saturated fat, a monounsaturated fat, and a polyunsaturated fat. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons long. Hexanoic acid. I don't know what the name for this one is, but this would actually technically be a medium chain. So how long that carbon chain is where we get short chain, medium chain, and long chain fatty acids. And then each of those are available, well, not short chain, but each of those are available in saturated, monounsaturated, and okay. Basically only the long chains can be polyunsaturated. So what the saturated means, so I just drew a saturated fat. What is it saturated in? It's saturated in hydrogens. So each carbon can share up to 4 electrons in these double bonds. So these little lines here reflect 2 electrons that are shared, one from the carbon and one from the hydrogen. So that's like each atom like reaching out and like holding hands, right? They're holding electrons together. That is called a single bond. This double bond with this oxygen over here is more like aliens that have 4 hands reaching out and sharing 2 electrons, right? So maybe we're holding hands and we're holding feet in this case, right? So that's a double bond. So that oxygen and that carbon are sharing 2 electrons. So what happens in a monounsaturated fat is we lose a hydrogen. 1, 2, 3, we have to lose this hydrogen here too. So we add a double bond. So see, each of these carbons still sharing 4 electrons with its neighbor. But now, because these 2 carbons are sharing 2 electrons, right? Holding hands and holding feet, there's now no room for hydrogen to be there. So this is a monounsaturated fat. So it is mono because it has 1 double bond, and it is unsaturated because it no longer has the most amount of hydrogens in the hydrocarbon chain as it could possibly have. So a polyunsaturated fat is just a fat where there's 1 more double bond, right? 2 or more double bonds is polyunsaturated, 1 double bond is monounsaturated. So that is the difference. So the difference is carbon atoms sharing two electrons, 1 electron each in a single bond, or 2 electrons each, so 4 electrons in a double bond, and the space that makes for hydrogen. Now, what's really cool is so I have created double bonds in what's called the cis transformation. So see how the hydrogens are on the same side? But you can also get this, where the hydrogens are on opposite sides, and that's called the trans conformation. So that's where trans fats comes. It comes from these double bonds, whether it's man-made trans fats or natural trans fats, and the hydrogens being on opposite sides as opposed to same sides. So this one is a cis bond, and this one is a trans bond. And so if a fat has any trans bonds in it, it's called a trans fatty acid, even if it's a polyunsaturated fatty acid. And what's cool, which this diagram is going to be really hard to show you, is these double bonds, especially when the hydrogens are on the same side, put a little kink in that hydrocarbon chain. So it changes the shape. So it would kind of go like this and then like this. That was terrible drawing on my part. but hopefully you can understand, right? The double bond kind of put a kink in that molecule, and a trans fat kind of straightens it out. So when you have a trans bond, it's a look straighter, whereas when you have a cis double bond, it kind of put a kink. So some fats are like because they have lots of like double bonds, and they're all cis double bonds, and they put all kinds of weird like cool shapes in the fatty acids, especially long fats. Like the long chain omega-3 fats are like 22 and 24 carbon atoms long. Like it's a really, like I just drew 6. Those polyunsaturated fats are really long chain fatty acids. So that is the chemistry of fatty acids. And the reason why that's important is because these change the shape of the molecule, that changes the chemical behavior of the molecule. So when you have something that's a different shape, it does different things, right? Proteins fold in different ways. They end up being different shapes, so they can do different jobs. And so different fats have different shapes, right? And they're different lengths. And that changes what they can be used for in the body. Oh, here's one more thing. I need my eraser. Hang on. We're going to create a whole new fat. Okay, I drew a longer fat to show the difference between omega-3 and omega-6s, polyunsaturated fats. So poly means 2 or more double bonds. And what the 3 and 6 mean is the location from the cool side with the oxygens of the first double bond. So if that double bond is between the 3rd and 4th carbon, then it's an omega-3 polyunsaturated fat. And if you didn't have that one there, right, that one was a regular, and instead 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you put it here. So that has to be a signal. And then you have like maybe a double one down there. If it's between the 6th and 7th carbons from the end, then it's an omega-6 polyunsaturated fat. So that's what the 3 and 6 means. It means the location of the first double bond down the hydrocarbon chain. So again, if you have your double bond way down here, you have a really straight part, and then you have all the weird kinks, right? So that's an omega-6, whereas an omega-3 would be straight for a much shorter period of time and then have like random kinks wherever there's double bonds. So the shape difference is why they are used differently in our body. And a fun fact about omega-3s and omega-6s, our bodies can convert one omega-3 to a different type of omega-3. It just adds some more carbons on the end of the chain, or it takes them off. Or we can change one omega-6 to another omega-6, but we can't actually make this first double bond change location to turn an omega-3 into omega-6 or vice versa. And that's why omega-3s and omega-6s are essential fats.